My birthday was this week. I turned 34 and I am still single I have been for more than 2.5 years, but not through lack of trying. And people know this, people give me advice. One of the comments I get is, why are you still single? What are you doing? Kind of jokingly implying, what are you doing wrong? And then you've got the other side of the coin where there's always someone in your life that will say, well, you shouldn't need a relationship to be happy. And on some level that's true, but on another level it's like, okay, well, reverse that. Like if I was in a relationship, nobody would say to me, don't worry, you'll be single soon. So that's I guess a bit revealing about how we really feel about people being single. But when you say you're not really looking right now, you're just taking time to work on yourself, everybody has an opinion. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. That's my feeling. And it's always the opposite to whatever you're doing. So, you need to put yourself out there versus you'll find someone when you least expect it, when you're not looking. The main reason why I'm single is not because I haven't had options. It's because I'm not working on a first come, first served basis. And the reason is, well, there's several reasons. First of all, I have a finite amount of time, as do they. There's no point wasting anybody's time. And if I'm single, I'm only one step away from being with the right person. If I'm in a relationship with someone that I'm giving a shot, or I'm just flat out in a relationship with the wrong person, I'm at least 2 steps away from being with the right person. I can't give you the perspective from a man, but I can give you the perspective of a fertile woman who may or may not want children, especially one that has entered her mid-30s very recently. That's not time you want to be wasting. And it's hard to break up with someone even when it's not right. It's, you still need time to get over it, to grieve the end of a relationship even if it wasn't perfect. And then it means just my heart is given a perpetual workout that it doesn't really need. And I actually sometimes I just take myself out of the dating game just because I need a break. I'm often told, based on my previous dating history, don't settle. And then at the same time, sometimes by the same people, told, why don't you give that person a chance? He seems nice. As if I'm being superficial. But what I would say about that is, you wouldn't say that if you knew I liked women. If you knew that I was only attracted to women, unless you're extremely homophobic, so you would just accept I don't feel an attraction to that man. And I think the problem is that people see gender and sexuality in quite a binary way. But I actually think sexuality is more nuanced than that. I think there's all sorts of reasons why you would or wouldn't be attracted to a person. There's plenty of times where in my life I've been attracted to someone in real life that I would never have swiped right on. And vice versa. There be people that on paper, on screen, very attractive, or someone that I thought I might be attracted to, and you meet them, you're like, nope, not feeling it. There's something to be said about chemistry, and there's something to be said about all aspects of what you find attractive about a person and what you don't. And some of those things I'm not able to define, or most people aren't able to define as clearly as gender or sex. And gender. And then also with the way that we do online dating now with the apps, and I'm not saying it's a bad way of working, swiping right, swiping left. I'm not saying that's bad, in the sense that we already kind of do that when we see people at a party or across the street. We are already in our heads swiping left and right. We just don't know if they are also swiping left or right on us in real life, whereas we do in an app. But this amount of choice that we have through the screen, and the fact that we're able to just ignore each other, which I'm also not saying is a bad thing. I hate the pressure of the traditional online dating sites where you get messages and you feel like you have to respond to people you're just not interested in. The bombardment of it all kind of takes away the human aspect of it, and you become numb to it. You become numb to being rejected as well, which I guess might be a good thing, I don't know. We need to get back to seeing potential mates as other human beings that have the same rights as ourselves to feel good, also to reject us, to not be interested in us. But we're dating like our feelings are chips on a poker table. And I guess even before online dating, we would see each other, I guess, as players in a game, opponents and targets to outsmart and beat. So often people tell me, you're coming across too forward, you need to let them chase. But If I have to manipulate someone into being with me by playing on a person's anxiety, by not responding to them immediately when when I don't actually have something else I'm doing, won't they just, swim away once their feelings of rejection and insecurity dissipate, if that's the primary reason they're interested in me? When we're talking about these sorts of games about how long a woman should make someone wait, and also probably games that men play or are supposed to play, this removes room for genuine connection, because we do the opposite to what is needed for happy relationships. Whether these are short-term casual sexual relationships or encounters or long-term partnerships. So I'm saying you have to have trust and respect for other people regardless of the type of relationship that you're looking for. Even hookups are ideally based on trust and honesty, where everyone knows where they stand. I've said numerous times to friends and family that I'd rather be single than in a bad or an unhealthy relationship, and I think that's especially true in the sense that once I'm in a bad relationship, it's hard for me to let go, so it'd be better for me not to start a bad relationship in the first place. And I'm pretty happy being single. I value my time probably a little bit too much. I like not having to worry about someone else's well-being all the time, but that actually doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to find someone. In fact, I do want to find someone. I don't want to be single forever, although I have accepted I may well be. I truly believe that our time would be better spent being ourselves, and maybe I would say that because I'm just so committed to being myself. That's how I filter out people, is with my personality. If they're not right for me, they'll disappear, and they all do. So I guess it's working. But so jokes aside, it's kind of like when you set boundaries with a difficult person in your life, you have to accept that what you would like to happen might not happen. The logic with setting boundaries isn't to make their behavior change. It's to make sure that you're setting the standards for yourself. And that's the case for me in terms of my singledom, in that I've set these standards. I'm trying my best to stand by them, and that means I have to accept that I might be single forever. I might not find all the things I want, and then just find peace and happiness in that being the case. So that's the underlying reason I'm single. Whether I have hundreds of eligible men after me, as my mother imagines, or only one, I haven't found the connection I'm looking for. But that doesn't mean I'm scared of one. Being comfortable being single is not the same as being uncomfortable in a relationship. That would point more towards having a dismissive, avoidant attachment style, which I don't have. I would welcome the security of a relationship with the right person, not the perfect person, the right person for me, which is to say the person I feel a connection with, I can communicate with, and who complements my personality. I don't want to be put on a pedestal and treated like a princess. I don't want numerous guys to pursue me. I want to feel a connection based on a mutual attraction. I want to be accepted for the reality of who I am as part of an equal partnership where you have respect for each other. And in the meantime, I do enjoy being single and deciding how I'm going to spend my time, which is mostly with, sleeping and artistic endeavours, and if it's not work. So I don't need a man. I also don't need a good relationship with my parents. If I was rich, I wouldn't need a job, but I'd still want to work towards something. And I rent, which means I don't need to buy a house in order to live comfortably. I live comfortably, but having my own house would make me feel more stable and more secure. And I think that's the same for relationships. We say you should be happy to be single, and if you're happy being single, why do you want to be in a relationship? Because I'm human. Because I'm human. And yes, I'm sure there are plenty of humans out there that don't want to be in a relationship. Fine. Human beings generally are sociable, and one of the ways in which they fulfill that need for interaction and connection is with a romantic partner. And I don't think that should be. I think we need to lay off people who say they want a relationship. It's perfectly normal to want these kinds of relationships, connections, stability, and that's because humans are social beings. We're successful as a species and as individuals precisely because we form social bonds, and rely on each other. This is like, in evolutionary psychology, you might link this to the social brain hypothesis. Yeah, that being that our forebrains, especially relative to our body size, are bigger and more developed because we're sociable. Basically speaking, it's evolutionarily adaptive to look for those sorts of connections. And I'm talking specifically about romantic connections. So we're biologically driven to form attachments, in part because they provide survival and reproductive advantages. Children are more likely to survive to reproductive age if their parents are pair bonded, in that they form an attachment with each other. And these attachments between couples and with their children trigger support-seeking behaviour, which helps keep us safe. On an individual level, attachment is important for our emotional well-being. And that doesn't mean that we're weak and clingy. If we're talking about healthy attachment with caregivers when we're children, and with romantic partners when we're adults, attachment and independence aren't actually polarized forces, where the more attached you are, the more dependent you are, or the less independent you are. Physical and psychological proximity emboldens you to put yourself out there, knowing that there is an emotional safety net underneath you. So in childhood, this takes the form of the caregiver. We're attached to this secure base or safe haven from which to go out and explore. And a strong attachment in the first 4 or 5 years of life promotes an increasing degree of stable independence as the child matures. So as the child gets older, they become more emboldened to try things for themselves, to go a little bit further, maybe look back, check the parent is still there. But the fact that their parent is there means that they feel confident to try these things independently. Translate that into adulthood. Just as a child feels safer to explore things by themselves in the real world when they know their caregivers are behind them for support, help, and protection, we as adults are better equipped to face everyday challenges and to experience new things if we have a support network. Of course, that support network doesn't have to be a romantic partner, but the take-home message from this whole, attachment side of psychology is that a romantic partner is not necessarily a hindrance to your independence. Using this analogy, having a home doesn't make you less independent. You can step out of your house whenever you want, but it's definitely good to know you have a house to go back to or a base to go back to. And it also works both ways. So being comfortable with and by yourself allows you to commit to and feel secure in a relationship with eyes open rather than making choices out of fear of being alone, which, I have fears of being alone, but that's not how I'm choosing my relationship status. This independence is what allows you to choose a relationship based on how you value yourself, as being deserving of being in a relationship that you want, more than how much another person values you. Sometimes my self-esteem isn't great, so I'm not saying that I've got this down. And in fact, I'm not giving you advice for a relationship either, because hell, I'm not in one. And I guess so far you can say that all my relationships have failed. If I was in a relationship, it would be perfectly reasonable for me to expect to be able to feel free and secure at the same time. These goals aren't in opposition, and I'm not scared of losing my freedom. I'm scared of rejection once I take the leap, but that's an entirely different issue that I have. And of course, not everyone is actually going to find the love of their life. You never think, or at least when I was younger, I didn't think I was going to be the person that was going to end up alone, childless and alone. Childless, old, crazy cat lady. But someone has to be, I guess. And so maybe I'm in that percentage of people that just doesn't, or isn't lucky in love, or hasn't found love, or it hasn't lasted. And if I'm taking up a part of that percentage and the rest of you are in the majority, you're welcome, I guess. Did I rant? Did I ramble? Yes. Because my personality is, it is what it is. My finger is stuck in my hair. Oh yeah. That's what I get for playing with my hair. Where was I? That's a different story. Let's not talk about that.